Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're making a really simple 3-ingredient sausage ball. Now, like I said, these are really simple. They do take a minute to make, but it only takes 3 ingredients. And these are kind of a favorite on Christmas morning because you can make them ahead of time. They're good for all of your Christmas parties, your New Year's parties, your potlucks, all those kind of get-togethers. And here is what you need. You need a pound of shredded cheddar cheese, and it can be mild or sharp. And you can substitute a different cheese for it. If you wanted like a pepper jack or something, you could use that in here. But that's 4 cups. And I have 2 cups of baking mix. I usually use pancake mix, but you can use any kind of pancake mix, Bisquick, anything like that. And if you don't have that, you can even use self-rising flour. But you do want something with some leavening in it. I buy pancake mix to go camping in the summertime, and then if I have any left over, I use it around the holidays in sausage balls. And you need a pound of pork sausage. Now you can substitute that for, you know, something else. There's other kinds of sausage if you don't like, or if you don't eat pork. Just do the turkey or whatever it is that you like. You can also use one of the plant-based sausages if you want. And it can be any brand or any flavor that you want. Just make sure that it's a flavor that you like, because that flavor is going to affect your sausage balls. And you can do hot, mild, you know, whatever. You want to get probably a little bit better quality, because all of the fat that is in your sausage is going to stay in your sausage balls, and you don't want them super greasy. And with all the fat in the cheese and all the fat in the sausage, if you use a really, really cheap brand of sausage that has a ton of fat in it, that's not going to give you the best sausage ball. But I like Wamplers, Jimmy Dean, even Tennessee Pride and stuff like that. I know now we're shopping more price than brand, and that's fine, shop price. But get something, try to get something that's not super fatty. Anyway, all we're going to do is dump these together. Just dump your bacon mix in your cheese and then add your sausage. Now, this is kind of hard to mix, and it does take a minute. You could probably mix this in your stand mixer with a dough hook. I've never tried, so I don't know. If you want to try it, and maybe let me know how it works out. But what we're going to do is kind of knead this, and the best way to mix it is with your hands. You might want to wear gloves, especially if you have nails, because it's hard to clean your nails up. But just start mixing. And like I said, just knead it like you're kneading bread. And as you keep kneading it, whatever moisture is in the cheese and in the sausage is kind of going to make it all stick together. And I have seen recipes where folks add a little milk to this. If you're in a big hurry, you could add a little milk to it. It does affect the texture a little bit, but not a ton. So if you're in a big hurry, like I said, just add a little milk to it to make it easier to mix, to make it stick together easier. I like it this way, but it would save you some time. Now, when we get these mixed up, we're gonna shape them into balls that are about a tablespoon big. You want to keep them all even, and you know, so they're all the same size. That's so they will all bake at the same time. I'm going to use my cookie scooper, my smaller one, but if you don't have a cookie scooper, you could use a measuring spoon or something to keep them all even. Or if you just happen to have a really good eye and you can make them all even, that's fine too. I don't. If I don't measure it, some of them will be a tablespoon and some of them will be a 1/4 cup. Now, if you want to make these for Christmas morning, you can make them and wrap them up tight and put them in the refrigerator before they're baked. Or you can make them way ahead of time, you know, now, and put them in the freezer. But if you just wanted to make them the night before, you could make them up and shape them and wrap them up real tight and put them in the refrigerator and then bake them the next morning. But if you freeze them, you're going to want to heat them about 10 minutes. Just take them out of the freezer and put them in the oven for about 10 minutes, and that'll heat them up and you can enjoy them out of the freezer. Maybe if you're making them and you live alone and you want them for later, if you freeze them, it takes about 10 minutes to heat them up. And you can heat them in the microwave, but it does affect the texture. Of course, you know that if you use a microwave to heat stuff, it always affects the texture. If you're making them for breakfast, well, if you're making them for any time, like New Year's Eve or Christmas or something, and you're going to be serving them, whether you're doing it at a party or for breakfast, you can serve them just like they are without anything. Or you can set out some apple butter, maybe some strawberry and grape jam to dip them in. Some folks even dip them in ketchup. It's just kind of up to you. If you're doing them for breakfast, though, you could make a big pan of gravy and put out a bowl of gravy and let folks dip them in gravy. It's, you know, just kind of whatever you want. But if I was going to do them for a lot of folks, whether it was a New Year's Eve party or Christmas morning where people were going to be eating them more for a meal, I probably would at least set out some apple butter, jams, jellies, maple syrup, you know, stuff like that, so they can dip them in it. Okay, it's kind of starting to come together. This is the part where it really gets rough, and you're going to think that it's never going to mix together. But it will, I promise. Every single crumb of that cheese and every bit of that pancake mix or Bisquick, whatever you're using, will mix right in with your sausage. Okay, that took 10 minutes of some pretty serious kneading. Now, I normally only make half a batch of these when I make them because this is going to make somewhere between 50 and 60 sausage balls. But you want to knead it until all of your cheese and all of your bacon mix is stuck into your sausage like this. And you actually want to keep kneading it a little bit beyond this because you want it to not be crumbly. It is much easier to mix half batch. And the next time I make a whole batch, I might try that stand mixer and that dough hook. I swear I've worked up a sweat here. But you can do it by hand in about 10 minutes. All right, that looks pretty good. You can see it's all stuck in there and my cheese is not crumbling out everywhere. That's what you want. If your cheese is still falling out and crumbling, you don't have it mixed good enough. You want it to be a nice sticky, but not too sticky, dough ball. Now, I am going to bake this on parchment lined baking sheets. And I'm using the parchment paper for the same reason that I do with the cookies. I don't want the bottom of them to burn. But even more than that, I don't want that cheese to burn on my cookie sheet and have to clean it off because it's almost impossible to get it off, and then your cookies don't bake right if you have burned stuff all over your cookie sheet. So now we got to start dividing it up. And this actually takes longer than mixing it. Every one, you do want to roll it a little bit and smooth it out a little bit. You're not going to get it perfectly smooth. And you do want to leave a little bit of room between these on your cookie sheet because it does have leavening in it. So they're going to rise up a little bit. They're going to be bigger than this when they're baked. Not a ton, but a little. And you also want air to be able to get between them to cook them correctly. Because this has the raw sausage in it, you want to make sure that you get it done. We don't want to feed anybody raw sausage at a party or on Christmas morning. Even with the scooper to measure these, I'm still getting mine a little bit uneven. I mean, I don't think I could ever make them the exact same size. It didn't matter what I did, but you do want to keep them really close, because if you have little bitty ones, they'll get done too soon, and if you have great big ones, they'll actually burn on the outside before the sausage gets done on the inside, and you don't want that. And you can see here the diameter is about 1 inch. You don't really want them any bigger than that. While I'm shaping a few more of these, I want to share Romans 15:13 with you. And now the God of hope fill you with all the joy and peace in believing, that ye may abound in hope through the power of the Holy Ghost. It is Christmas time, and Christmas time for Christians is a time when we celebrate the gift of Jesus, and when we celebrate the hope that that gift gives us for eternal life, for peace through the Holy Ghost. We know that our eternal salvation is granted, guaranteed, it's there. We know that we have power over all things evil because God tells us that. And as Christians, we know that death is not the end. That's our hope. We got that 2,000 years ago on Christmas. And I know that there are many of you out there who are grieving this Christmas, and I am right there with you. But I want to tell you that that grief is an opportunity from God. It is an opportunity that He gave us during a particularly dark time in history to show the world His hope, to let our light shine, to show them that even though we grieve, even though we have had loss, we have hope. And we still have joy, and we still have peace, because we know what the future holds. We know who wins this dark battle, and we know that our loved ones are not gone, because we know that the grave isn't the end for us. And I want to encourage you, if you are in that place in your life where I am, where you are grieving, and maybe you've been grieving the loss of a loved one for several years now, Christmas time is a time for hope, and it is a time for joy. And I want to encourage you that even though you may be grieving, that you continue to let your light shine so that the world can see that that hope is real, even when things are their darkest. And even though I have my moments, the world is going to see the joy of the Lord and that eternal hope that I have. And I hope that you will join me in showing the world that as a Christian, that we have that no matter what happens to us. And just in case I don't get back before Christmas, I really hope that you all have a Christmas that is filled with peace, hope, love, and joy, no matter what your circumstance is, because God doesn't change just because our circumstances do. Okay, now y'all have seen how to do this. Yep. And I'm not going to stand here and make 53 of these while y'all watch, or 58, or whatever this batch ends up making. I have half a batch in the oven that are done, and I want to show you what they look like. Now you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and I don't turn my oven on until I have finished shaping all of my sausage balls, because I want to let them rest just a few minutes before I put them in the oven. We're going to leave these sitting here so you can see what they look like before they go in the oven and after they come out of the oven. And like I said, you do want to let them sit here for, just a few minutes while you preheat the oven. It's the same with all of our quick bread recipes that we have done, and this is kind of a quick bread. Even though it's more sausage and cheese than bread, it still has that baking powder in it, and it's going to rise the same way all of our biscuits and all that stuff do. So give them just a second before you put them in the oven. Okay, this is what they look like when they come out of the oven. They should be nice and brown, not burned, but nice and brown. You do want to cook them until they are brown on the outside, but you know, don't cook them until they're burned. They'll be really brown on the bottom. That's why I use this parchment paper, because without the parchment paper, you would have a little burned cheese and sausage ring on your cookie sheet, and then it would be awful to try and bake cookies on it. It'd be almost impossible to get it clean, and then it would never quite bake cookies right again. These are going to be crunchy on the outside. That's why I said if you make them ahead of time and you freeze them and you heat them in the microwave, you're going to lose some of that crunch on the outside. But they should be tender on the inside. You shouldn't really see the cheese or the sausage on the inside if it's done. It's going to be brown and kind of soft and actually feel a lot like like a firm biscuit. It's not going to be like a fluffy biscuit, but it should have a little spring, kind of like a biscuit on the inside. You're going to preheat the oven to about 350 once you get your balls shaped. Then you're going to cook them anywhere between 20 and 25 minutes. I do mine about 23 minutes. If they're not brown at 25 minutes, cook them a little bit longer, because they do have the raw sausage in them and you don't want to make anybody sick with the raw sausage. And if they're not brown, they're not going to have that crisp outer crust on them. And that's part of what makes them so good. And whether you're eating them just plain or you're dipping them, they are best warm, but they still taste pretty good once they cool down. So if you're having a big party and they start to get cold, people are still going to eat them. Don't worry about it. And they are great for Christmas morning, for New Year's Eve parties where people are staying late and they're starting to get really hungry. And maybe you want to feed them a little something right before they leave home. They're good for potlucks, and you can have them as a meal, like for breakfast, or you can serve them as hors d'oeuvres at parties. And some of those dips I talk about are great. They really make them special, or you don't have to have anything at all. But once you make these and you take them to a family get-together or a church potluck or office potluck, everybody's going to ask you to make them for forever. And I am going to try that stand mixer on a whole batch. Like I said, I normally only make a half a batch, and this is a half a batch here that I took out of the oven. A whole pound of sausage and a whole pound of cheese is going to make over 50. So I hope this one kind of turns into one of your Christmas traditions maybe. And I hope you get to make lots of really happy memories with the people that you love this year. I hope I'm going to see you at least one more time before Christmas, but my kids are really pushing me to take some time to rest, because it has been a very busy time, not just because it's Christmas time and there's a lot of extra stuff to do, but because of all the other stuff we've had going on. And this year I kind of got double duty at Christmas. I'm Granny and Pawpaw, which takes a little bit more time. So if I don't see you again, Merry Christmas, and I will see you right after Christmas. But hopefully I will at least one more time. If you haven't already, please don't forget to click like and subscribe before you leave. And until next time, remember to put God first.